All right. So let's move on to the next exercise. So it's going to be really similar, but I'm going to start from a new script. But I'm going to copy some of these. So let's just do that. Let's make a new empty object. The reset and say random city. Yeah, so it's a random city, and I'm going to create a C# script called random city. Is random a good word? I don't know. Okay. So in the future, if you want to change the name of the script, do change it from here. And make sure that this name here and the name here should be exactly the same. Okay? Otherwise, it's going to error. Okay, I have this random city script, and I'm going to double click on it. And I'm going to just copy paste few words from this parametric wall. So I don't need this description, so I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to also bring something, but in this case, I'm going to bring a house. So house prefab. I'm gonna copy a lot of houses to create a city. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to copy copy these lines, Control C, Control V, and house prefab instead of brick prefab. And the position is with I and J. We don't need that. We are going to create some random position on. So we are going to say random dot range. So this actually creates a random value within a range. So in our case, we made a terrain like this. So we don't want to go beyond this. So that's 85 from minus 85 to 85. Doesn't make sense? So we are going to say minus 85.0 F or F, and 85 F is a float, and Y axis will be 0. We don't need this. We don't need this, so I'm going to close it. 0F and random range, Control C, Control V. So the x-axis, x position is random inside minus 85 to 85. Z coordinate will be random, but Y coordinate will be 0. Okay. And if we do this and save it, and then inside random, we have to give the prefab. So bring the prefab here and play it. We still have the we still have this thing, so don't worry. But this will be actually, I'm going to just for now turn this off. You can delete it as well. So this will give you different position every time. Yeah, but this will be somehow within the range of this minus 80 to 80. Yeah. So I know right now our sample size is a little bit higher up. So maybe just for the sake of showing it, showing the position, let me check how high is this. So I'm going to put a position and say what, and the coordinates 32, z is 32. So something like 32 will be safe, something like 35 for now. What I'm going to do later is I'm going to let all of these positions to find the location on the mesh and position them on the terrain. But before we do that, let's just populate it. So, okay. So we make sure that they are within this range, but maybe just make sure that they are actually well inside. Let's just make the range slowly smaller. And then we are going to loop this. So for int I is 0, I is smaller than 20, I plus plus. You can change how many houses you want to copy. And in this case, we are not associating any position with I. So we can just go ahead, play it. There are multiple houses added. Yeah. You can also randomize the rotation, or you can have some very specific rotation angles in the future. But I'm going to randomize the rotation. So rotate 0 and range, random range. So random range from -314F to 314F, right? Pi is what? 180 degree. 0F, 0F, and a range. You have to put an F after a number to make sure it's a float. Okay, so every time I start, they will give me a new rotation. Didn't work. Why is that? Okay, let me check again. The rotation is different, but they didn't get rotated. Right? The rotation.
Maybe because 3.14 is a really small range, maybe?
Is it because?
If they're only rotating 3 meters on either side, I think they're going to look pretty similar.
Really? Do you think that's because? Maybe. Was this a degree? They got rotated, right?
You didn't save it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that was not radian, it was degree. I thought it's radian. Okay, that's good. Okay, so they got rotated and they got populated, and now we have to find the position on the mesh. That is quite some bit of script, so I actually have a script that is already written for that portion. So I'm going to use that. So I'm going to share this script anyways, but what I'm going to do is I have a script that is already written that can actually find the nearest point on a mesh. All right, so I'm going to just copy paste this line and I will show you how to use it. So I'm going to Control B, this one, and let me use point on mesh. Okay, bound mesh. Okay, so we need to import a mesh. Public game object, and just for the sake of this one, it's called bound mesh, and we need to bring that mesh object here. Okay, save it. Now once it's saved, in random city, it's requesting a mesh object. So we are going to give this one. So it's better we give the prefab from the model sample site. Let's see if there is nothing else. That's great. We go back to this and bring that simple sample site model here. Okay, so make sure we don't have any error. Okay, so what this is actually doing is converting the position on the position of a terrain. So what we are going to do is after you create this random position, we are going to say position is nearest point, finding a nearest point of the position on this mesh. And this will find the position on the nearest point and store it in a position vector again. So let's play it. Did I save? Okay, something is wrong. So mesh filter attached. So there's no mesh filter attached. Okay, so in this mesh, you need to do something. Okay. So the mesh filter is actually inside this the child instead of the parent, right? So we need to give this thing instead of this entire thing. So what we have to do is we have to just unpack this. Instead of say default, we don't need it. We need this thing. We need site terrain. And we need to give this one instead of the sample site, because sample site essentially is empty. It was the child has the mesh. Yeah, that's why it doesn't find it. Okay, let's see if this works now. Okay, they populated some point somewhere there. There's something missing. Okay, so one thing is that it's not allowed to read. So when you import the OBJ, you need to allow the reading. So the sample site model is restricted. So where Okay, so when you import this model, it was an OBJ or FBX or whatever. There is this inspector here, and you need to allow read and write enabled. You need to enable it. Otherwise, it doesn't read the information from this mesh. Okay, now it should work. Apply, yes. All right, so now you see that they are all populated on the nearest position and found their own position there. Does it make sense? Okay. Okay. So let's populate something like this. And one thing I want you to do is I want you to have maybe 2 different or 3 different houses. So let's just do that before we wrap up. So we can have house prefab 2. All right, and we have first prefab and second prefab. And we can also, of course, we can randomize the rotation and everything. Okay. But what we want you to do is I want you to have a condition of this house prefab. So let me check the height. So for example, these are higher, right? So I'm going to move my model somewhere here. Okay, say what? This gives me, okay, so 22. So 22, if I'm higher, if my position is higher than 22, I'm going to use the first house prefab, and otherwise I will use the second house prefab. And my first house prefab, and I need to give that house prefab here. So for now, I'm going to use this model. So prefab. So I'm going to give the brick for now. And for brick, I'm going to add some material just to be more obvious. Pink. I think I already have pink, right? Okay, no. I'm gonna give the pink here. And oh, please remind me to explain about the texture, yeah? Okay. So in random, I have pink brick there, and I have house brick. Okay. And then there you can actually add different condition. So condition is if. So I'm going to say if my position's y-axis is bigger, higher than 22f, actually let's just say 20, then I will do something, and else I'll do something else. So when they are higher, I will put my houses as it is. Otherwise, I'm going to put those bricks. And I will still put the randomization of the rotation. So else, only thing I want to change is house prefab 2. Okay, save it and play it. So when I'm higher up, I put my houses, and when I'm lower, I put something else. Okay, so you can give different conditions. So in the future, maybe if my texture map here is red, or my red value is higher, I do something. When my blue value is higher, I do something. Or something like that. You can do a lot of different conditions. You can work with different conditions.